Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something, well, pretty close to home for many of us houseplants.
That's right. We're looking at this really insightful article from the Well-Rooted Wellness series. It's called, Can a Houseplant Save Your Mental Health?
And we know you want to get the key takeaways quickly, but also thoroughly. So that's what we're doing here, distilling it all down.
Yeah, our mission for this deep dive is really to get under the hood, to understand the actual evidence, the mechanisms behind how these indoor plants might, genuinely impact our mental well-being.
Moving beyond just the Instagram trend, baby.
Exactly. Exploring the substance. And the article draws on psychology, horticulture, even environmental science research. It pulls it all together.
Okay, so let's start where the article does with the green prescription. It jumps right in saying, look, science suggests indoor plants do improve well-being.
And it backs that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, some specific findings really caught my eye.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's compelling isn't just the idea, it's the concrete evidence, like that study in the Journal of Physiological Anthropology.
Tell us about that one.
Well, it showed that just, touching or tending to a plant could lower cortisol levels. That's your main stress hormone within minutes.
Wow, minutes. That's fast.
Surprisingly fast. A quick physiological shift.
And it's not only stress, right? There was that University of Michigan research on focus, too.
Right. That one indicated up to a 20% improvement in memory retention and concentration just from brief interactions with nature or plants.
20% is?
Well, yeah.
Well, that's quite a jump, whether you're working or just trying to remember things day to day.
It really is. It sort of suggests that bringing a bit of that natural world inside can act as a kind of counterbalance to, all the screen time and urban living.
A little mental reset button.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's the air quality aspect. Get this, the article brings up NASA's clean air study.
Oh, yeah, the NASA study. Snake plants, pothos, peace lilies.
Exactly. Common houseplants, removing pollutants like benzene, formaldehyde, trichloroethylene, stuff you don't really want floating around.
So how does cleaner air connect to, mental state?
Well, the thinking is, if your body isn't working as hard to filter out airborne toxins, it frees up resources. It could lead to greater mental clarity, maybe fewer headaches, less of that foggy feeling.
Okay, that makes sense. It's all sort of interconnected.
In subtle ways, definitely. And don't forget the mood boost. The article connects being around greenery to potentially increase serotonin and endorphin production.
Ah, the feel-good chemicals.
Precisely. So having a plant nearby might actually contribute to a more positive baseline mood. Think about how you feel outdoors in nature.
Right, that sense of calm or uplift.
Some of that same response, potentially just on a smaller scale, inside your home, creating a more supportive environment.
Okay, so shifting gears slightly, the article introduces this idea of plants as a quiet mirror.
Yeah, I found this part really fascinating.
Me too. The idea that how we care for plants, or even just observe them, reflects back lessons about our own well-being.
It's insightful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reframing plant care as a form of gentle self-reflection. The article points out how a plant needs the right conditions to thrive: light, water, soil. And that mirrors our own need for, a supportive environment, good relationships, work-life balance, things like that.
That's a great parallel, needing the right sunlight in our own lives.
Exactly. And observing that growth is slow, it's gradual, a new leaf unfurling, roots spreading. It's a reminder for patience with our own journey, right?
Yeah, because personal growth or healing, it's rarely linear or fast.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
And the article also touches on neglect and recovery, how even if a plant looks rough, it can often bounce back with care.
That feels like a really forgiving metaphor, doesn't it? It takes the pressure off needing to be perfect.
It does. It normalizes setbacks. It highlights resilience. The plant bounces back, and maybe we can too. It's sort of a living symbol of hope.
And that point about consistency over perfection really resonated. It's not about having a flawless plant.
Right.
It's about the regular, maybe imperfect care that sustains it.
That's such a key takeaway for self-care, too. Small, consistent actions often matter more than grand gestures or chasing some impossible ideal, building sustainable habits.
Okay, then it moves into plant parenthood as a mental health practice, how caring for plants can be this low-pressure way to build good routines.
Yeah, and it integrates these simple tasks into daily life, like the daily check-in, the watering. The article calls it a grounding ritual.
A pause.
Exactly. A moment to just be present, engaged with something living and tangible.
Like a little anchor in the day, away from screens and to-do lists.
Precisely. And the low-stakes nurturing part is crucial. If you forget to water sometimes, the plant is usually okay.
Most of the time, yeah.
So you get to practice care, practice attention, without this huge weight of consequence if you slip up. It's a safe space to practice nurturing.
And the visible progress. That was a great point. Mental healing can feel so invisible sometimes.
Totally. You feel stuck.
But with a plant, you literally see the new leaf, the growth, tangible proof your care is making a difference.
That visual feedback loop is powerful. It gives you that sense of accomplishment, reinforces that your actions have positive results, which is really encouraging, especially if you're feeling stuck elsewhere.
The article also talks about plants as companions, tackling loneliness. That felt quite poignant.
It did. And it's sort of validates those feelings people have toward their plants, that emotional connection.
Right. It's not silly to feel attached.
Not at all. In a world where we can feel disconnected, even just caring for another living thing can foster connection, ease that isolation a bit.
I loved the examples they used: basil rooting for you, the fiddle leaf fig silently stretching, the cactus holding its ground. It gives them personality.
It really does. It taps into that biophilia, that innate connection we have with nature. Little green companions offering comfort, a sense of shared space.
Then there's naming them. The healing power of naming and ritual. I hadn't really thought about the impact of just giving a plant a name.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Naming shifts it from an it to a you almost. Creates a relationship.
Makes it more personal.
Yeah, fosters a deeper bond. It becomes something you actively care for.
And the rituals mentioned were so simple. Misting with music, weekly leaf checks with tea.
But they create structure, predictability. That can feel incredibly safe and grounding, especially when things feel chaotic. Like the article says, structure itself can be healing. Little anchors.
So if people are listening and feeling inspired, the article gives practical tips. Choosing your green allies. 6 beginner-friendly plants.
Yes, good choices because they're pretty resilient. The snake plant, for instance, great air purifier, tolerates neglect. Good for beginners or busy people.
Right. And pothos, fast-growing, forgiving. Good for building confidence, maybe. Seeing it thrive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Peace lily, beautiful, but also tells you clearly when it's thirsty with that dramatic wilt. Plus, air purifying again.
Aloe vera, practical, soothing gel, but also a symbol of resilience.
And the ZZ plant, they call it nearly indestructible. Right. Good for low light, low anxiety.
Yeah. And finally, lavender. Needs sun, but that calming scent is a direct link to relaxation, a reminder to breathe.
It's about finding a match, isn't it? Something that fits your home, your lifestyle, and offers those benefits without adding stress. Starting easy is key.
The article also briefly mentions the psychology of green, the color itself.
Yeah, that deep association we have with it. Green, calm, balance, renewal. It's tied to our evolution, really.
How so?
Well, for most of human history, green meant safety, resources, water. Our nervous systems are kind of hardwired to find green environments restful.
So seeing it indoors triggers that subconscious feeling of safety.
That's the idea. It signals a nourishing, secure space, even subtly. It's more than just decoration. It affects how we feel in the space.
Okay, but it's not always smooth sailing, right? The article addresses navigating setbacks, forgetting to water, feeling unmotivated.
So important to include that. It normalizes it. Life happens. You don't have to be a perfect plant parent, just like you don't have to be perfect, period.
Right. Our well-being dips. Maybe the plants does too sometimes.
Exactly. It's not failure. It's just part of the process. An opportunity to learn, adjust, try again.
And that message that, like plants, we can bounce back, that feels really hopeful.
Absolutely. Reinforces that idea of cycles, of resilience. Setbacks aren't the end.
I was really struck by the section on plants and trauma recovery, how plant care can be grounding for survivors.
Yes, the sensory aspect is key there. Engaging, touch the leaves, the soil, sight watching growth, smell herbs or flowers, even sound watering.
It pulls you into the present moment through the senses.
Precisely. For someone who might struggle with dissociation or feeling disconnected from their body because of trauma, these tangible here and now sensations can be incredibly anchoring.
The article calls it a core practice in trauma-informed therapy, using the senses to ground yourself.
That's right. Focusing intentionally on these physical sensations can help interrupt difficult thought patterns and foster that sense of presence and safety.
And finally, it wraps up with building a personal sanctuary, going from one plant to maybe a few, creating a healing environment.
Yeah, curating a space that feels genuinely nurturing. And the sanctuary isn't just the plants themselves.
It's the process of caring for them, too.
Exactly. The process, the interaction, the sense of connection and calm that grows from that relationship with your little green space.
So bringing it all together, the takeaway seems to be, yes, houseplants can genuinely contribute to mental health.
Not as a replacement for therapy or medication if needed, obviously.
Of course not. But as a valuable, accessible support.
Absolutely. They can anchor your days, reflect growth, offer companionship, teach nurturing.
Yeah.
All these subtle but meaningful things.
So for you listening, maybe think about it differently next time you see a plant. It's not just decor. Perhaps a leafy friend could be a real part of your well-being journey.
Growing alongside you, maybe. It's an invitation, really, to bring a bit of that nurturing, grounding energy of the natural world right into your home. Something to consider.
That's it for today's episode of Well-Rooted Wellness. We hope you enjoyed the show and picked up a few nuggets of wisdom along the way. If you loved what you heard, why not help keep the podcast growing by making a donation? You'll find the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and remember, it's okay to not be okay, but together, we can get better. Until next time, stay well, stay rooted.